Good afternoon, everyone. We appreciate everyone joining in here today. For today's webinar, we'll be covering effective onboarding for long-term success and employee retention. My name is Jason Cools. I'm on the payroll and HR team here at Greenshades, and I'll be presenting alongside Amber. So I'll let her introduce herself, and we will dive in for today.
I'm Amber Manuel. I'm a sales engineer here at Greenshades Software, and we hope you enjoy today's presentation.
Thanks, Amber. So for today's objective, we will be taking an in-depth look at some of the latest updates to Greenshades onboarding and learn how these innovations can help deliver a seamless, engaging onboarding experience that enhances employee retention and long-term success for your organization as well. So in the first section, we'll take a look at the foundations of effective onboarding. So why does onboarding matter? Onboarding does more than just introduce new hires to your company. It really sets the foundation for their success and long-term impact. When it comes to setting first impressions, employees are 58% more likely to stay with a company for 3 years if they have a structured onboarding experience. It can help boost productivity faster as well. So new hires are 50% more productive when they go through a standardized onboarding process. And ultimately, the goal is to reduce turnover and hiring costs. So employees are over 2.5 times more likely to be extremely satisfied at work when they have that great experience during onboarding. And as you all know, if an employee is hired, they go through a few weeks or a month and it's not a great fit, that cost to an organization can be quite high. So getting it right the first time is very important. And as we go through the webinar here today, we will work to elaborate further on some of these data points. And then Amber will have a live demonstration as well to show some of our latest features. So in the next section, we'll take a look at overcoming some onboarding pitfalls, things to look out for to increase employee retention as well. So with onboarding, there can be a lot of common pitfalls that you want to avoid, starting with overloading new hires with information. It seems pretty straightforward, but by bombarding employees with too much paperwork, training activities, company details, all of this information can lead to confusion and disengagement from those new hires. That leads into lack of structure during the onboarding process, failure to provide a clear onboarding roadmap, or not having regular check-ins with your new hires can leave them feeling unsupported during the process. And probably the biggest one here is ignoring compliance requirements. So skipping any crucial steps like proper documentation, e-verify checks, tax form collections. All of those items can lead to legal and financial penalties as well. When it comes to the onboarding process, having a one-size-fits-all approach, may not be the best idea for onboarding. Not having a tailored process for different roles, maybe remote employees or seasonal hires, can lead to a lot of inefficiencies. And as Amber will touch on in just a few minutes here, within Greenshades, we do support setting up unlimited custom workflows for onboarding. So you can take into account position, department locations, and make sure that those new hires are receiving the proper documentation specific to their role within your organization. And then lastly, failure to integrate company culture. Having a process that focuses solely on logistics and paperwork without introducing new hires to your company mission, your values, or the team itself can lead to weakening that long-term retention of your employees. And then transitioning into the structure of the onboarding experience, I like to think of onboarding really as your company's first real opportunity to set employees up for success. So structure really matters here. When it comes to things like personalizing the onboarding experience. Any personalization that you can add helps employees makes those employees feel valued and empowered from day one. And then when it comes to company culture, employees who feel connected to a company's mission, they're more likely to stay long term. So by implementing simple changes like assigning mentors, encouraging leadership introductions, and incorporating your core values into the process, it can really make a large difference in engagement and retention. Culture isn't something that employees should pick up on over time. It should be really woven into the onboarding experience from day one. And then finally, as far as having an intuitive onboarding workflow, it ensures that everything is running smoothly. So new hires shouldn't feel like they have to navigate through a confusing maze of logins, different forms. Having a digital automated workflow allows those new hires to feel confident in the process, and leveraging technology like e-signatures, automated reminders, integration with payroll and HR. It can not only improve the efficiency on the employee side, but save your HR teams a lot of time and manual work as well. And then moving into the compliance topic, I know just from the poll question, this is an important aspect for you all here today. So when it comes to onboarding, compliance isn't just going to be checking off boxes. It's building a seamless, secure approach that not only protects your employees, but your organization as well. So on this slide, I just wanted to break down some key areas where we can help you optimize the approach when it comes to compliance. So for mandatory documentation and forms, collecting documentations like the I-9, W-4, state tax forms, it's not only going to be best practice, but it's also legally required during that onboarding process. The key to this, though, is automation where you can. So having a centralized system that is able to flag incomplete, outdated forms can prevent some of those costly mistakes and reduce the manual workload at the same time for HR. For data security and privacy, again, onboarding is going to consist of handling some of the most sensitive employee information from social security numbers, banking information, personal information. It's a must that all of that data is stored securely to prevent any breaches down the road as well. And then, leverage tools where you can, like E-Verify for employment eligibility. Using E-Verify will ensure that new hires are legally authorized to work in the US. A common challenge here, though, is keeping up with verification timelines. So missing any deadlines or failing to act on non-confirmations can lead to those compliant issues. And as Amber will touch on as well, through the Greenshades platform, we do support E-Verify. So during implementation, clients have a chance to provide us with their E-Verify logins. And then once they go through the approval process of new hires, we can push those E-Verify cases directly through E-Verify and just reduce the risk of missing any crucial information. And then finally, when it comes to certifications and licenses, if you all have specific roles that require certifications or licenses, whether it's in the healthcare industry, construction, finance, verifying those credentials upfront is going to be critical during onboarding. But it goes beyond just collecting them. It's about being able to track things like expiration dates and ensuring that ongoing compliance. So when your employees come into work, you know that they are ready to hit the ground running, they're up to date, and they can go out and achieve their responsibilities within your organization. So with that, I will pass it over to Amber, and she's going to take us into a live demonstration and cover some of the new features for today.
Thanks, Jason. So let's go ahead and take a look at onboarding with Greenshades. So what we're looking at here is the admin side setup for new hire onboarding workflows. So as Jason mentioned, it's typically best practice to have various workflows for employees who need different sort of documentation during onboarding. So you can set up as many different onboarding workflows as make sense for your team. When you begin the setup process, you'll start off by providing the workflow with a name so that you can recognize it internally. And then Greenshades is going to create a shareable URL that you can either send out to employees ahead of their first day or share with them when they come in to report for their first day of work. After that, you'll have default values. So these are going to be coming from your own data sets. So you'll see all of your own positions and locations in these dropdowns as you set up your onboarding workflows. If you know that an employee completing this workflow is going to be in a particular location, position, or something of that sort, you can assign those values ahead of time to save a little bit of time on the approval process. It's also perfectly okay to leave those default values blank if you're not sure where that employee will land, or if you have a one-off, you can make adjustments during the approval process. After default values, you'll be able to include required steps for the workflow. So the first two steps here are always going to be required, just so we can collect enough information to create an employee record, and so that we can reach out to that employee and notify them when their account becomes active. After that, we can support a variety of other steps. We can collect some additional profile information, dependents for benefits administration. We can support direct deposit setup, I-9 and W-4 forms, and we can even ask employees about their tax form distribution preference. For any company-specific documents, you can load those into the HR document library and include them in those onboarding workflows. So whether it be a reference document or something that you're going to require an e-signature on, or even if it's a fillable form where you're collecting additional details from those new hires, you can get all of that in an electronic format rather than dealing with paper forms. In addition to the required steps, we do have the ability to set up tasks along with these workflows. So these tasks are going to be admin actions that admins will be prompted to complete after they go through the approval process for that new hire. Along with the workflows, we do support setting up various email templates. So you can set up different welcome messages to include when sending out that onboarding link to new hires. This is a great opportunity to share key details with employees, as well as contact information, so they have a contact to reach back out to if needed. And then tasks can be managed individually, so you can set up individual tasks as well as establish task groups if you know that certain tasks will need to be completed as part of a larger workflow. Once your workflows are ready to go, you'll share that link with new hires and they'll be brought to a landing page pretty similar to this. As they go through the onboarding workflow, if they end up getting disconnected or navigating away from this screen before they complete all of the required items, we're going to link them up to their in-progress workflow so they can complete any pending items. When they access that workflow, they're going to be able to provide any details that are required. We won't allow employees to move forward until all required fields are completed, so you'll have full control over what level of detail you're collecting. Employees will be able to set up their notification preferences here. If they have a secondary email that they'd like to include, we can send notifications to both. And then they'll go ahead and complete their direct deposit information. If you'd like to suppress the paper check option, you absolutely can, or you can keep it open so they can select whether they'd like direct deposit or a paper check. We do validate routing numbers during the workflow. So if we don't recognize the routing number, we'll let them know so they can double check that information and confirm it's accurate. If employees have multiple accounts they'd like to split out funds to, they can set up to 9 accounts to split their funds. And if you'd like to build in an extra step of security into this step to make sure that everything is accurate, you can require employees to upload some documentation here as well. Once they complete direct deposit setup, employees are going to be routed to the documents page. This documents page can be built out as much as needed, so if you have a handful of company-specific documents, they'll all display as individual line items on this screen. For the federal W-4, employees will be able to come in and fill out the form directly. Just like with those custom documents, we are going to ensure that all required fields are populated before they can submit the forms. For any state withholding forms, we'll recommend a state withholding form based on the work location that is assigned to the onboarding workflow, but employees will have access to any state forms they might need. If they do have multiple state withholding forms they need to complete, they can easily add additional ones down below. As Jason mentioned, we do support I-9 functionality, so our I-9 process is a 3-step process where the employee would complete their portion of the form, would then be routed to the admin side. Admins could review and approve the employee's portion, then upload list A or B and C documents and submit an E-Verify case directly from Greenshades Online. Here we have the employee handbook, one of those custom documents that's been included in this workflow. Employees can review the document, they can download the document if needed, and they can sign off to acknowledge that they have reviewed that document. After onboarding, once their account is active, these documents are going to be available through their Green Employee account. Here we have another custom document. This document doesn't require a signature on the employee's part. This is simply a reference document that they can review. And after onboarding, if they ever need to reference it, it'll be available. The final step of the onboarding workflow is going to ask about tax form distribution preference. So for any employees that consent to receive an electronic tax form at year-end, if you're distributing forms through Greenshades, we can exclude any employees who've already consented to those electronic tax forms from any print and mail service you might order through us or from any download batches you might create to distribute those forms in-house. After the employee has completed all of the required items for their onboarding workflow, they'll go ahead and hit finish, and the admin side will receive a notification that they have a new hire in need of review. From this new hire dashboard, admins will be able to see every employee who's ever entered the system through one of those new hire onboarding workflows. They'll be able to sort by status so they can see where employees have left off or see what employees need to go ahead and be reviewed so they can become active in the system. And for any employees that are currently in progress, they can check and see exactly where that employee has left off in the onboarding workflow. For any onboarding workflows ready for approval, they can come in and review the information submitted by the employee. They can add additional details here, make adjustments to formatting if something doesn't quite look right or if they'd like to have uniform formatting. At this point, they can also make changes to the default values. So if an employee has come through an onboarding workflow with particular values attached, but doesn't quite align with all of those values, you can go ahead and make those adjustments during approval. Once that employee is approved, we're going to send a notification to them to their preferred notification option so that they can go ahead and access their account and set up login credentials. At this point, the admin will have the opportunity to review any other documents completed by the employee, as well as get started on those admin tasks. So whether they're sending off the task to another admin to complete, or they're marking that item complete themselves, they can manage that here. And the employee will now have a new employee record that can be referenced. So that was a high-level look at Greenshades' onboarding process.
Perfect. So as we wrap up here today, I always like to tell clients that Greenshades is here to support not only your organization, but your employees from hire to retire. So whether that is on the HR side, through our employee self-service, the onboarding that we covered here today, benefit administration, or time and labor management, we are here to provide the tools, not only to your employees, but the admin side as well, to help reduce any risks of compliance issues, remove the burdens of any manual data work as well. And then from a payroll perspective, Greenshades' in-house payroll platform is truly personalized to fit your business operations. We are here to scale and grow, as you all do over the coming years as well. And then when it comes to tax and compliance, Greenshades is able to provide confidence, making sure that making sure that clients are, understanding exactly when they need to file their taxes, what they need to focus on. And when it comes to submission, understanding that those forms will be compliant when ready to be submitted. Just for the key takeaways today, again, automate the onboarding process where you can. Having that streamlined onboarding process with automation can really help to just manage compliance, manage documents in a single structured workflow, ensuring that everything runs efficiently for both employees and the HR team. When it comes to personalization, having personalization when it comes to new hires based on role, department, positions, it gives those new hires just a personalized welcome while immersing them within your company culture at the same time. And then optimize your Greenshade solution. Again, as we went through today, just a high-level overview of the onboarding experience. If you're able to streamline onboarding, create that welcoming environment for your employees, it can help reduce some of the manual lift and work on the HR side as well. So we are at time for today. So again, we thank you all for taking the time to join with us. If you do have any questions or would like a personalized demonstration, feel free to contact us at sales@greenshades.com. And again, thank you all for your time.